Warning: the following podcast show that you're about to listen to will include explicit language and content in which you, the members of the audience, may find offensive. Audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to another episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience.
Yeah, boy.
Where anything and everything is a subject matter on the show, and no subject matter is ever taboo.
Damn, that's what's up, my G.
And now, your host with the most, Mr. Kim Hoang. Bro, am I getting paid for this?
Yo, what's going on, everybody? How the heck are you? This is your boy Kim Hoang, the Asian Sensation, and I'm here in the booth over in the Asian Sensation Studios in the greater Washington DC Metropolitan Area because I'm cooking up another episode that is the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, and it's nice to be here, sitting on the chair, got the mic, and I'm just hitting the record button and letting it fly, Hector is actually not here tonight, so I'm not really worried about it because I wanted this time. I wanted this time to be here. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to go ahead and do my thing. And that's it. I just really wanted to, be a part of it. Just to be a part of this whole process that is my creative medium. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this and preface this. Sometimes, when us as creatives, we have a good moment, we have a real good one, and it feels great because when we have a good moment and we do our thing and things just seem to go so right and so well, we feel like we're on top of the world. We really, really do. And, in many cases, I want that to happen, especially for myself, because I feel like if I'm successful and if I'm doing it and if I'm really making it happen, then I'm on cloud nine. And I feel like, I really have accomplished what I set to accomplish, and I want to, have more of that for sure. And I think everybody deserves that. Everybody deserves success. Everybody deserves to be happy. Everybody deserves, a little bit of something, right? For sure. But then there's moments where, unfortunately, people do feel a little bit down and a little bit sad, and that's normal. It does happen from time to time. And I think that's just like the balance. That's what makes us who we are. And that's just something that I feel like, okay, that's cool. I'm with that. But this one here that I'm going to talk to and I'm going to open up, hit a little bit closer to home, and this actually involves somebody that I know. Now, I just want to preface that I eventually found out the news online when I saw it officially on print. So when I saw that, I was like, oh man, it's unfortunate that, this unfortunate news finally reached out to me. But I feel like if it was out there, online for people to know, because maybe some people didn't know, then I think it will be okay to kind of comment and speak on it. And this one, like I said, it's gonna sting. It's gonna hurt a little bit. But I feel like I want to open it up to a person that I know, that was a friend, and that was a real good support and a martial arts mentor. And I want to talk about the passing of martial arts competitor Olivia Sun, who unfortunately last week, and if I'm reading this correctly, according to the website of the karate school that she studies at in Kim's studio, that she had lost her fight with cancer last Tuesday, January the 16th, 2024. I have so many good things to say about Olivia. It's basically, a real cool story. where I actually met her through the Korean traditional martial arts circuit. I wasn't even a black belt at the time, but I remember her because she had competed in the same division as my cousin, Huyen Dao. And, Huyen Dao was an amazing competitor, and she would actually take, the first place, positions in her divisions normally. And riding right behind her would be Olivia Sun. And I remember I introduced myself to her at a tournament. And I just said, hey, my name is Kim. I'm with this school. I know you're with Kim Studio. And I just want to say that, from what I saw, you're really amazing. You do great things. And, I have so much love and respect for you. I think that you got a lot of great talent. You're a strong competitor. And, I just wish you the best. And I don't know, maybe it was just that day. Maybe it was something in the air. But she was really nice. And she just shook my hand and said, oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And we became good friends in the sense that, if I ever saw her at a martial arts tournament that I competed in, then it's cool. I would definitely say hi, and I would definitely, ask her how she's doing and so forth. And it was great. It was great. It was lovely. I'm all about it. You know what I mean? And, it was great that I would compete in the same tournament that she was, and we would always say hi to each other, and we would wish each other very, the very best in our divisions and to compete well and so forth. There were a couple of times that Olivia did actually see me compete. And when she did, and she saw that, I might have gotten like second place or third place or whatever, she did congratulate me. She really did. And she, gave me a hug as like a sign of support. And she would always make time to actually say, you know what, let me give you a little bit of piece of advice. And I never forgot that. And I knew at that point it was like Olivia was so nice with her time and so giving. And she did not have to do that. She could have just let me figure things out on my own. She could have just saved that for her fellow students. But, she took the time. She took the time, and I think it was just like she wanted to see me succeed. And she thought that by giving me extra advice, it would be okay. It would be okay, and it would be fine. And, and then that was that. And I felt like, wow, that was kind of cool. I guess that does mean that, she respects me and, and she thinks of me well enough to be like, I guess a friend. And throughout the years, we kept in touch. We did. We kept in touch through social media. I remember I told her the time that I was going to test for black belt. And I even asked her, I said, what's the secret? Is there anything of a secret tip or anything? And she just told me flat out, well, there's nothing that I can tell you that you don't already know. I mean, you've been training for a long time. Obviously your instructors think that you're ready. So pretty much when you test for your black belt, that's the day to shine. Just show them the knowledge, show them everything that you know, do your very best, and that's it. That's all you need to do. You know what I mean? And I'm just really happy and grateful for that, piece of advice that she gave me, because it made so much sense. And I applied it, along with every other instructor that gave me their advice. But it was nice that from somebody from another school actually just wished me well and gave me just, basic advice that made sense. And then when I told her that I passed and I earned my first degree black belt, she was really happy for me. She was like, dude, I'm really, really proud of you. Congratulations. You're going to be a great martial artist. And although I did appreciate, her saying that, I felt like in comparison, she was a better martial artist because of all the competitions that she went to, all the accolades, winning, first place or gold medal and winning grand championship and just competing with all the other strong martial artists out there in her division and maybe even mixed divisions. She was a fierce competitor and a strong competitor, competing in forms and making it look good. You know what I mean? She was a dynamo, if you will. She was just somebody that really had that ability, who had the knowledge, that just had that physical gift. And I felt like, okay, that's kind of cool. You know what I mean? I am all about that. It's definitely cool. And, that's something that us as martial artists, we should really, strive to be, to have that, that competitor spirit and, the work ethic to really be successful. And every time that I've seen her do, there's two forms that I saw her do that I always saw her do. Well, beforehand, I've always seen her do a form called Jian. And then she would do Gun Sengun. And then she would actually do Kempo. And I just thought, wow, she's like making these forms look flawless. And it looked great. Really did. I found out about her having cancer, I think, maybe around last year or something, because I started to see on her social media that all of a sudden she started to lose her hair drastically, and she kind of cut it like super, super short. And I didn't know what that meant at the time. I just thought that, well, you're just, you're trying something a little bit different in the hair look department. I did not know that it was cancer. And for her to have gone through that for so long, and even competing in tournaments with, the cancer inside of her, really told me how much of a person that she really is, like how strong of a person and how strong of a warrior that she is in competing. I don't know of other people that would have, but she did. And that just told me that she was strong in body, mind, and spirit. And I've always had a lot of respect for her. I really thought that anybody that competes against her, at least in the present day, if she was there, you would have a problem because she was that good. And it just really saddens me to know that, unfortunately, her time came and went. She was here, and now, unfortunately, she has passed. But at least now, she's in a situation where she no longer feels pain, and she is now free. And her legacy and her memory will live on forever. She will always be known as a strong warrior, and she will always be known as a champion, and she will always be known as the person that was not afraid to go for it, because that's the type of person that she was. I would like to send my sincere condolences to her family, because I read on the website that she is survived by her mom and dad and her sister. So to them, I just want to say that my condolences to the Sun family. I want to send my condolences out to, friends and co-workers, all the martial artists that she trained with over at the Kim Studio Martial Arts School in the Washington DC area. And, anybody that was affected by her untimely passing. For her to, reach as high as a 6th-degree black belt in Taekwondo is very impressive. And that just tells me that that was a lot of years that she dedicated her life into the art and to really want to pursue that high level of excellence. And I think that's the type of, excellence and hard work and so forth that we should try to match in the work ethic department. I don't think that there's going to be another person that's going to be, as a strong competitor as Olivia was, as a strong martial artist as Olivia was. And if I had anything to say right now, if Olivia was there in front of me right now, I would definitely say this. Olivia, I just want to say, thank you. In a world where, when we compete against each other, you never were that type of person that was like, oh, because you're from another school, I can't be friends with you. You broke that mold, and you proved that you wanted to be friends with everybody, as long as you were a nice person, came in with the respect and the right attitude, and you're very open-minded, you're very supportive, you really cared for a lot of people, and that's a really true mark of a master. And, I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done for me in my life. Thank you for enriching my life. And may you rest in peace. You know what I mean? Eternally, forever and ever. The world will be a lesser place without you now. But I know that heaven has gained another angel that's going to be, kicking with the best of them. And, I just hope that when it's my time, maybe you'll be out there, in the gates of heaven for me, and we will meet up and reunite and, get that cup of tea together. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But I'm going to end it right over here for right now. We're going to take a little bit of a break. We'll come right back. We're going to transition to another segment. So don't go anywhere because, we're just getting started. So I'm happy and I'm ready to go. All right. I'll see y'all in a bit. A lot of locations in the Maryland state. Sushi Q. Their mission is to deliver an authentic taste of Japanese cuisine along with creative flair from the modern influences of sushi. It's their pleasure to serve you with the highest quality of food and excellent service at the best prices. They're proud of their unique and wonderful creative cuisine, which is created from the finest ingredients. They promise you the freshest seafood, meat, and produce. You just can't beat their taste, and you can't beat their quality, and you can't beat their food. For more locations, or if you want to go ahead and order online of their great cuisine and their great food, go to sushiqmd.com. That is sushiqmd.com. Sushi Q.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
All right. Welcome back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. We're here in the booth, feeling a little bit well rested and, going over a few things and some show notes. And I got to tell you, I love my breaks. I love when we cut to a commercial, and I love the fact that I get a chance to just decompress, work a new strategy, and just go for it. Just do whatever it is I need to do, or just go over special notes once again, like I've said before, about something that I'll probably transition to, whether if I'm transitioning into, another subject about cooking, or transition into another, part of the show where I'm actually talking about, my experiences of being a podcaster. You know what I mean? Like into that kind of a segment. This one though is, oh boy, you kind of, as an actor, now everybody knows that I'm also a local film actor, you really don't want to try to talk bad about certain things, and you don't want to have the negativity that goes behind that, because then it just makes you seem like you're a person that is just, not of a filled with a positive attitude, and the person, that displays that on a public setting, and people might question it. But I usually, for the most part, am a positive person, and I am, for the most part, a person that is trying to be very jovial and, caring, and do whatever I can to, be a helpful person on the set. You know what I mean? But there are some times in life, when the crap hits the fan, it's just terrible. And, lately, when I've actually talked to just people in general that are not of the acting world, people that I do know, a lot of people have really asked me, Kim, has there been like a lot of drama, and unnecessary stuff that does happen over in the local film industry? And, have you experienced it yourself, or has other people that went through that ringer? And, the answer is yes, yes, and yes. Drama does happen, and especially in the world of local acting, local film acting, or even like possibly big acting, in like the major motion picture films arena, it does happen. Because at the end of the day, we're all just regular people, and we do argue and we do bicker, and sometimes we just don't really know when to just kind of leave it at the door, because they always say, leave work where work is at, and don't carry your work with you outside of it. And sometimes we just forget that, and maybe sometimes we just forget that we should conduct ourselves as professionals and adults that we are, and just try to solve it in a civil manner. Again, unfortunately, these things do happen, and again, we are human beings. This does happen. We're not, at least in this sense, we're being a local film actor, we're not really established. We're in the process of trying to work hard to get established, but it is what it is. It is as common as you think, because for many reasons. Some actors feel like because of the position and the prestige of where they are in the project, they feel like they have a need to have a sense of entitlement, or they may already have that personality of being entitled, or they just feel like the world does revolve around them, and and so forth, and it does happen. And even stuff like, do I even dare say that if you're supposed to be doing one thing, but then you kind of go rogue and do the other thing, and then all of a sudden you make it a huge deal, then yes, it does become a problem. It does become a problem. I know, I have experienced it myself. I have experienced that, through other people, meaning that they have gone through that ringer and I haven't directly, but I feel like I experienced it with them because I saw it firsthand, and or I heard about it, and I feel for the said person because I have a lot of respect for that person, and the drama and the BS actually happened to them. You know what I mean? Case in point, and I think I have mentioned this about like a few episodes back. I think I really did. Years ago, when I started, into my acting career, I have actually worked with a company. I worked with a production company that was going to be making like a full-length feature film, which during that time, everybody heard about, this project, and they wanted to be in it. It was kind of like the talk of the town. Everybody was, dialed in, they were locked in, they heard about it, and they heard about, like, the potential that this film was going to get, in the potential that this film was, in the direction of where it was going to go and where it was going to trend. And we kind of knew, like, wow, okay, this is something, at that time we didn't know what was going to happen, but we just felt like, it was something that we had to do. You know what I mean? And of all things, I think I probably found out through some acting organization on Facebook or something like that, for local actors. And it was said, believe it or not, that an A-list actor was going to be a part of the cast, and it was going to be actor Ron Perlman. Now, if you know the actor Ron Perlman, he had been on such movies as most notably Hellboy, because he was in that. He was also in Blade 2, and he was actually one of the main actors playing the character role of Beast in the CBS TV series Beauty and the Beast. So when you heard, a name like Ron Perlman, you automatically jump on it, and you're just like, oh my goodness, this is great. This is awesome. And, to my surprise, I actually made it on the cast initially, and I was going to have a great supporting role as this police officer, and it was going to have a lot of parts, and, I was going to get a lot of face time and everything. Well, the first time that I actually, and the only time that I actually filmed as that role, I did show up about like 10 minutes late. Now, I know that in the rules, you're not supposed to be late at all. You're supposed to be on time. Which means, if you're on time, you're early, and, if you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, God help you, right? So I showed up 10 minutes late. Now, yeah, that was my fault. And I take full blame on it. But there's an unsaid rule that, if you are late, and it's not by much, it's not the end of the world, But the director really blew up in my face and made it a huge issue than it needed to be, And, I was thinking that, maybe he might have pulled me aside and talked about it. And I was like, okay, at least then it's like, you're not going to, chastise me in front of the cast, But he made it his prerogative to just, just pull me out, from the one pillar to the other post and throw me on the ground and drag me like a dog resisting, by the collar. And it sucked. It really did. And then, I've just felt like, well, if this is the worst that's probably going to happen, so be it. I just came here to act, and I wanted to do that. I really wanted to be that actor, play my role, play my part, do what I needed to do, and just get the heck out of there, because all I know is I'm just an actor acting in, in a good opportunity, in a good project. I don't want to mess this up. Not at all. Excuse me. So, yeah, I just, continued on. A few days later, I get a call, and it's from one of the executive producers. Basically, long story short, and excuse me because I'm actually eating some candy. That's not actually professional of me either. So, one of the executive producers called me, and he tells me that I'm basically getting removed from the cast, and that my my position, the role that I was going to be playing, was going to be portrayed by him. At that point, yeah, I definitely was a little bit angry about that for sure, because I spent a lot of time, I invested a lot of my time trying to be this actor and to be this character, and to fulfill my obligation as an actor to do this role. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to go ahead and you're going to take that away from me? Wow. We definitely went back and forth. It was something that, to this day I really regret in that sense, because I felt like it could have been dealt with a little bit better, but, he brought in the heat. I countered back, I was going back and forth with the director and the, executive producer, and like this whole drama that we created was just a complete embarrassment. It was a complete embarrassment, and do I still think about that? Absolutely. It still haunts me. Just because I know that if I dealt with it better, I just really wouldn't feel as bad as I am right now. In hindsight, I do still think that it still, needed to be dealt with. But the way and the manner that it was dealt with all that unnecessary toxicity and drama and whatnot, it just sucked. It really did. And then come to find out later on that Ron Perlman, who was supposed to have been a part of the cast, was no longer a part of the cast and was never actually in it. So, hey, there's quite the shock for you. Most recently, I found out, and I know that I mentioned this over at a previous episode, that a friend of mine was involved in a film project or a short or whatever you want to call it, because there was a little bit of a series. And he got a good part. He also got it wasn't a lead role, it was a strong supporting role. And, he did everything right. He went through the process. He auditioned. He actually tried to get in good with all the castmates and the crew members and so forth. Obviously, for the most part, there were some people that he was cool with right off the bat. And then there were some people that, unfortunately, it just didn't work that way. It didn't sway in that decision. Now, I know my friend, and we've been friends for a while, and I know that everything that he tells me, I believe him, because he would not lie. He would never lie. And when he told me that, he was being professional on the set and doing his best to get along with everybody, I believe it, because I believe that his word is, his bond. Well, I'm not sure what happened specifically, whether if there was like a rift between certain crew members and apparently the the AD, which is the assistant director, but it was just something that went terribly wrong, to the point where, one day he found out that he was getting replaced, and he was getting replaced by another actor. And that basically, he got a big demotion. And although that was dramatic, for sure, and there was a whole bunch of drama that was involved in that, he tried his best to really not let it bother him. But I know deep down inside, it was hurting him, There was times that, he was really questioning whether if he wanted to be there. But he stuck with it because, he wanted to show his support. By that, he also wanted to show his support to at that time, some of his friends and that assistant director, because, he wanted to keep it, in a good relationship. Next thing you know, the project is, to this day, has not been worked on as far as I was told. And it just felt like it was, I don't know if it was scraped, but it was never worked on. There was a lot of things that were happening where, a lot of other people were asking about it. And I asked him, like, what's going on with that? And he's like, oh, that's a whole bunch of drama that I don't want to get into. And I'd rather forget. And it's one of those things that, unfortunately, is a regret in my acting career. I really feel bad. I feel like with that type of drama, it shouldn't have happened. And I think it's just a classic case that there was just really no proper communication. None at all. It was just one of those things where, there could have been a way. And I feel like they started and then they gave up. It seemed like, from what I understand, it really seemed like a disorganized show. You know what I mean? Was it a poop show? You be the judge. But I just don't really like, hearing such things like that, because that's, again, drama that really shouldn't have been happening. What made it worse was that this assistant director, there was some actors that she let go. You know what I mean? Some of them had bad attitudes. Some of them had other projects that they felt like it was important to be in, or like commitments that they wanted to be to keep, that unfortunately didn't sit so well with the assistant director, since the director was kind of doing something else. I think, I'm not sure. I'm not really getting the full gist of it, but overall, it was just a dramatic crap show. And I felt bad for my friend, you know what I mean? Because I told him, I was like, dude, you really did everything that you could to, work hard and to do the best that you can and to be there for others and to help out and to be a positive support. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out. It just was a ticking time bomb from the get-go, and yeah, these things do happen, it really does. Can it be avoided? Absolutely. A lot of things like that can be avoided. The one thing I tell people is that, make sure you know what you're getting into. If you know the project, that's awesome. If you don't, familiarize yourself with it. Understand who the cast and crew is. If you get along with the cast members, that's awesome. That's rare, but that does happen. If you don't, that becomes an underlying concern. Get along with the crew members. You know what I mean? Because they're the ones that help make this film happen, or this project happen. If you don't get in good terms with them, it's, you're in the doghouse, pal. You really are. And, yeah, as an actor, as a local film actor, I try to avoid that at all costs, because I don't want to catch myself in that rat trap. If I'm going to have a good time and a good experience, I want to have a good time and a good experience. And as an actor, I want to be professional, and I want to have that professional standard going into the set. If we don't have that, that's going to be an issue, and that's going to cause, the lighting of the gas that will start the big flammable fire. It's just not worth it. You know what I mean? So yes, drama does happen. It doesn't have to, but it does. It's dangerous. It's toxic. It's something that is not needed. You know what I mean? But it does happen. So all I have to say to my fellow actors and actresses that are in the community that really want to do things, in their acting and be in projects, I do praise you for that. I really do. But I would just say be careful and tread very lightly, because sometimes, if it seems too good to be true, then it probably is. And if there is some stuff that's going on, you don't want to be a part of it. When you attach your name into that type of situation, it sucks. for sure. But, you live and you learn, as an actor, that's always going to be the case. You live and you learn, you make adjustments in your career of acting, and you just go forward. You just, say, well, that was a moment in time. Wasn't the most pleasant moment, but hey, I did what I had to do. And, if I did it without much abrasive, feelings, then it's good. But if I caught the shrapnel of this whole situation, then yeah, it just wasn't worth it. So just a little bit of, information to share to people that, this type of stuff unfortunately does happen. But, you do have the power. It is in the palm of your hand. And, as long as you do your due diligence and you make sure that you protect yourself, then you're fine. Because as everybody knows, it's a tough environment. It's a tough world in the local film industry, in acting. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of he said, she said. Does it have to be? No, it doesn't. But it does. But I'm just grateful that I have an acting career and I'm doing something. And this year I'm going to be doing something, and it's actually going to be with people that I like. So in that sense, I really hit the jackpot. And I hope going forward into 2024 that it will continue to trend in that direction. I do want to work as an actor. I do want to be out there. I want to have fun and have a good time. I do want to get my name out there. I do want to be in lengthy, movie productions, possibly as a lead. So yeah, I have a lot of goals and aspirations. And I can't get there if there's any drama involved in there. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to leave it at that. So we're going to go ahead and take a moment. We'll come right back. We're going to finish it up with some Q&A, my favorite part of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. So stay tuned because we have much more, and it's coming at you. So we'll see you in a bit. If you're looking for a gym with no nonsense, then look no further than Kicked Up Fitness over at National Business Parkway. They're a new age training facility that takes the boring out of the gym. Next level functional training that can get you to your results faster than ever. Kicked Up Fitness in National Business Parkway offers kickboxing, boxing, and fitness programs to the Annapolis Junction area. Their mission at Kicked Up is to provide the ultimate functional training facility that focuses solely on your success. With their diverse team who's highly qualified and dedicated to taking your fitness goals to the next level, they offer a variety of group classes and personal training programs that provide something for everyone regardless of your fitness level. They believe in working hard and achieving results, all while having fun. Sounds too good to be true? Give them a call over at 410-888-9066. They're located over at 114 National Business Parkway, Suite 100 in Annapolis Junction, Maryland. You can also contact them via email, kufitnessnbp@gmail.com. And if you actually get in contact with my boy Sean, who's the owner of the place, if you tell him that Benny Chow from Miscalculated sent you, he might be able to hook you up with a free trial membership. You can't beat that. So go ahead, take charge, and take control. Kicked Up Fitness over at National Business Parkway.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
All right, everybody, we are back. Once again, it's the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, and we're here. This is the favorite moment of the show where we're actually closing it down. and we're doing a question and answer forum. So I'm really excited about this. We actually have here a sheet of paper given to us by Hector. We got 8 questions that he had picked by random. Some of it, I got a chance to glance at, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. But it's not like, again, I didn't pick these questions. So therefore, if I answer these questions and you hear these questions and you think that's a little bit weird, I'm sorry. I did not pick these questions. My job is to actually read the questions that are on the piece of paper, acknowledge whoever asked the question, and then answer it truthfully. But before I do that, I want to say thank you to those who have submitted in the questions and that you're doing it the right way. I've asked many a times to people to please do not give me any questions that has to deal with religion and or politics. And you guys have done that. So in that sense, I want to say thank you because you make it so easy for a guy, and, I don't really have to worry about like reading the question and, it's those type of questions and then I have to throw it away and give it an automatic disqualification because you guys went and followed the rules and you did exactly what I requested. Since I asked in a very nice way, you guys make it easy and I can acknowledge these questions, you know what I mean? So it's going to be fun. So without any further delay, I'm going to answer these 8 questions. And I think 8 is good because 8's an even number, you know what I mean? It's not like 5 or 3 or 7 or 9. It's 8, you know what I mean? And it's a good number. It's a 0 on top of another 0 makes it 8. So there you go. So I'm really, really happy about that. It's awesome. Let's go ahead and do it. The Q&A session here on the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. First question goes out. Here we go. Greg from Havre de Grace, Maryland. And I know where Havre de Grace is, home of the baseball legend Cal Ripken Jr. What keeps you going in podcasting and in acting? Well, Greg, that's a great question, first of all. I just want to preface by saying that I love podcasting and I love acting. You know what I mean? Those are 2 creative mediums that I embrace dearly and hold dear in my heart. And I think what keeps me going in podcasting and in acting is that, although I do, at least in my opinion, not a bad job in both worlds, I feel like I can always do better. I can always challenge myself and I can always do something to kind of win the person over. With podcasting, it's like, I'm trying to tell a compelling story and I'm trying to get people to really get in touch with what I'm saying and get dialed in and pay attention and listen to what I'm saying. And I'm also with podcasting, I'm trying to, experiment in different ways of podcasting and ways to present it so that people can really agree and like what I do. You know what I mean? With acting, it's sort of the same thing, although it's more of an actual performance art and people actually see the interpretation of the character that I'm trying to, actually portray. You know what I mean? And acting, depending if it's on theater or if it's on the movie screen, you can see it live and you can see it happen while it's going on. You know what I mean? And I think it's really good. I think it's really good and I think it's really great. And, that's what keeps me going. I'll never stop in both of these worlds. I'm always going to keep going and do my very best. So there you go. Number 2, Quan from Milpitas, California. Holy crap. I have family in Milpitas in the area code 408. So Milpitas, what's up? Stand up. What are the Baltimore Ravens' chances of actually getting to the Super Bowl and winning it? Quan, the Ravens have to beat the Kansas City Chiefs first in order to win the AFC Championship. That will give them a ticket to go to the Super Bowl. If we're talking about that first, I think that the Baltimore Ravens have a very good shot at winning the AFC Championship away from the Super Bowl defending champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, who we face in the Super Bowl if we get that far, whether it be the San Francisco 49ers or the Detroit Lions, I don't think it'll be much of a factor because we did beat both of those teams this season and in convincing fashion. I think that this time Lamar Jackson has the artillery and has the personnel to help out to win the Super Bowl. As before, he pretty much did it all on his own, ran it in on his own and so forth, and did most of the work. But this time, he's got weapons. He's got firepower. He has everything that he needs. So I'm just hoping that, that will happen. They just have to stay healthy, and they have to stay injury-free, and they just have to be dialed in and locked in, by the end of the day. So that's a good question. Hopefully, that the Ravens will get there. But you know what they say, anything can happen on any given Sunday. That's all I got to say. Question number 3 comes from Maria of San Antonio, Texas, home of the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, the WWE Hall of Famer. She asks, is it okay to make mistakes in life? And I believe that the answer is yes. It is okay to make mistakes in life. If we don't make mistakes, we never learn and we never grow. You know what I mean? When we make mistakes, it happens. And let me just say this. When we make mistakes, it's okay. We are only human. Every human in the world makes mistakes, no matter, how severe it is. If it's like super, super small or super, super big, we all mess up, right? Right. So, whether or not if you take the advantage to learn from that mistake is a different type of situation. I think it's okay, as long as you acknowledge that there was a mistake that was made, and if you're learning from that mistake, and if you learn at least one thing out of that mistake, then I think that you're evolving as a person. Therefore, everything will be fine. So yes, it is okay to make mistakes in life. Just don't make a whole lot of them, but it is okay. You know what I mean? You are human. Nobody's perfect. We all navigate our lives in different and strange ways, but it always works out. So, there you go. All right. Let's see. Oh, geez. Question number 4. Jane from Reno, Nevada says or asks, is it better if it's given or is it better if it's earned? I truly believe that it is better in life if you earn it rather than it being given to you. Because if you're given it, then you basically used no energy or work ethic to earn what you're trying to get. You just were given that. Now, if you earn it, that means you really have worked hard for it and you did everything that you could and you used a lot of energy, whether if it's physical or mental, to actually get it done, to earn that prize, if you will. And I've always been told in life that, when you earn it, it's twice as sweet than it is when you're given it. Now, if somebody just gave it to you because they felt like you earn it, then that's one thing. But if they gave it to you for, just to give it to you, or if they gave it to you with the incentive of just like, let's say, I'll give you $5 if you just keep quiet, like if you just don't say another word. Well, that's just, you're buying services at that point. You're not allowing the person to really work for it and earn it and get it the old-fashioned way, the rustic way. At least that's my opinion. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna dive too much into it, but I think that earning it is better than have it being given to you. So. All right, we are at question number 5. George from Helena, Montana asks, Who would you like to interview next on your podcast? There is a woman that's based out of Canada by the name of Sabrina Blem, who is the host of the Karate Shrimp podcast. I follow that podcast. I am a subscriber. I like the content of what she has on her podcast. Podcasting and talking about karate are it's a match made in heaven for me, because I love the podcast. I love podcasting and I love podcast shows. I also love karate and martial arts. It goes well together, hand in hand. It's great. It's awesome. And I think that what she tries to explain and what she tries to teach and, the lessons that she gives through her podcast, absolutely amazing. And it can be applied to everyday life. So I'm really, really trying my best to work hard to, get in contact with Sabrina and maybe get some kind of date where I can actually interview her and talk to her about her karate training and, life as a podcaster and what she does and how she does things. I think it would be incredible. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed that we get Sabrina on the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, because I believe it's definitely something that could possibly happen. But, fingers crossed, we don't know. So here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are at question number 6. So we're almost there. We're almost home. Jennifer of Port Huron, Michigan asks, what are your favorite methods of alleviating stress, physically and mentally? Mentally is easy because, I like to do things like either play video games or watch a movie. Those two activities are very fun and relaxing for me. Video games, you're more hands-on because you have a controller and you're moving stuff and you're following, where you're going with your video game character and trying to do all these things to win. Watching a movie is just very stress-free. It's so relaxing and you don't focus on anything but the movie and the plot of the movie and how the movie's going to go. So that's what I like to do mentally. Physically, I like to do the following. I do like taking a hot bath and putting Epsom salt in the bath so that my muscles can de-stress, they can relax, I can recuperate, and I can feel a little bit better about myself. Also, I like doing physical activities such as stretching, obviously my martial arts training, and, hitting on the heavy bag. There's nothing like actually doing physical work of that sense and really working through the stress that you have within your body, that could possibly harm you mentally as well as physically. So food for thought, just stretching out, maybe doing a little punching on the punching bag, or, if you do karate, work on your karate, it helps out. And I find myself doing that a couple of times, and at least for me, it works. So I'm always down for the de-stressing of the one-on-one. Question number 7 comes from Rich of Fargo, North Dakota. And he asks, what is the best deodorant that you ever used? Currently, right now, I'm using the Dr. Squatch Wood Barrel Bourbon deodorant that's aluminum free that I bought from Walmart. I think it was like $12. It is pretty expensive, but is definitely worth it, especially it being aluminum free, so you're not going to break out when you wear the deodorant. It's quick and absorbing when it comes to odors and sweat and so forth, and I like it. I really like it. I think it's amazing. It's small, but it packs quite the punch. And every time that I actually open the lid up and I smell it, I can't help but the fact that it's amazing stuff. So yeah, that is the best deodorant that money can buy, in my opinion. And for anybody out there that likes deodorant and wants something where it's a more bang for their buck, well, guess what? You got it. Last question of the day, question number 8. Carl from Towson, Maryland. And he actually asks a very good one where he says, when you do podcasting, do you ever get nervous? Do you get nervous before, during, or after? Carl, yes. Yes, I do get nervous. Matter of fact, I'm nervous right now, you know what I mean? And just doing, this podcast. A lot of people notice that sometimes I might, spit something, and say something that is just not me, or it's something that, when you hear the sound, you can hear the nervousness and you're like, oh boy. That's just a normal thing. I do get nervous before. I do get nervous during. Afterwards, I don't get nervous. I do worry about, how well I did, but I don't get nervous. And I think that it's normal when you're doing podcasting and you're getting the jitters, you're being a little nervous, and it's okay. When you're nervous, that's good, because, you want to kind of show that you're human and that you're willing to acknowledge that it's okay and you can do this, and hopefully, as many more episodes comes and gets in, the studio, that I'll be able to cope with it a little bit better, that I won't be as nervous, and that it'll just be second nature. For a guy that's been doing this for 3 seasons, I will say that I'm doing the best that I can, and it's not bad, and I'm okay with it. We just have to keep working hard, keep going to the next challenge, and we'll just do the best that we can, And I feel like as long as you try and do your very best, that's all that you can do. Nervousness, again, happens to the best of us. It's a normal thing. It'll get better with time, and it's okay. You know what I mean? It's all good. So there you have it. 8 questions, Q&A, done. It's amazing. Again, I want to give a shout out, and I want to actually dedicate this to the loving memory of my friend and martial artist Olivia Sun, who passed away due to cancer. Olivia, once again, I love you, and may your soul rest in heaven eternally. That being said, that's all the time that I got right now. You can find me over on Facebook under the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. Just look me up under the search box and enter. I am on other social media platforms such as Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter. Find me both at TKHPC Experience, all in one word, lowercase letters. Follow me and I'll follow you back. We are on 4 podcasting platforms. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. If you have the Spotify, give me a 5-star review. And if you have Apple Podcasts, give me a 5-star review and a good written ranking review. That way, you can actually get the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. Go to the front of the class. People will probably recognize it. They'll probably like it and listen to it. So yes, you know what I mean? Please do that, because it does help out. Sharing is caring. Please like and subscribe to my podcast on all the podcasting platforms. Also, do me a favor and actually spread the word about my podcast via word of mouth or by, social media. We have the Facebook. We have the Twitter, which is now known as X. We have Instagram. We have Snapchat. We even have TikTok. Let the people know. You know what I mean? They won't know unless you really share the information. Again, sharing is caring, and caring is half the battle. Last but not least, if you want to be a special guest host, or if you want to be a special guest, if you want to write in like a question for my Q&A session of my podcast show, or if you have any constructive criticism, please email it to me at the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience at gmail.com. Under the subject, put whatever the subject is. On the body of the email, just go ahead and write your email and let me know what it is, your purpose, and etc., etc. And once I get the email, which, normally I do, I'll go ahead and read it because I love, reading all the emails that get back to me, and I'll properly correspond back to you in the right way. But that's all that I got. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Please be safe out there because it doesn't do us any good if you actually do something foolish and you end up, dead and in the pine box 6 feet under. We want you to be safe. We want you to be healthy. We want you to be happy. We want you to be enjoying life because that's what you deserve, and you deserve no less. And anybody that tells you that you don't deserve it, you should tell them to go ahead and kiss your butt. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. So for the one time over in the Asian Sensation Studios in the greater Washington DC Metropolitan Area, this is your boy Kim Hoang saying thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. I love each and every one of you guys. And remember, I do this for you because, you guys want it. And as long as you guys keep wanting the content that I'm actually sharing with you guys, then I'll keep it happen. Or I should say I will keep it happening and I will keep it going. And you guys will enjoy every moment of the ride. It's been real, guys. I'll talk to you soon.